Hello everyone and welcome to Sinful Gaming. I hope you're all doing well, I hope you're all staying safe, and most of all, I hope you're all fighting that war against the grey. Today's video we're going to talk getting started with Warhammer Age of Sigmar, and today we're going to take a look at the Lumineth Realm Lords, and in particular the Helon sub-faction of the army. In this video we're going to go through, talk a little bit about what is special about Helon as a sub-faction, and then look at a couple of units we recommend to get started with for this particular sub-faction. We'll then take a look at some other units we can use to expand upon after these initial purchases, and then finally finish off the video with a little sample army list of 1000 points for you to use as some inspiration for starting your own Lumineth Realm Lords army using the Helon sub-faction. Now, what does Helon the sub-faction give us particularly? First of all, we get to add one to the attacks characteristic of missile weapons used by friendly Helon units while they're within 6 inch of enemy units. This is pretty cool. We got a lot of cool shooting units, and this goes nicely with the fact that Huracan wind charges become battle line when we're playing in a Helon sub-faction. So a unit of mounted archers on their total war kangaroos, they get to go and do some shooting, and there's some cool rules we can play around with that we'll talk about in just a second. Now, looking at where to start, I think the Huracan Wind Mage is the place to start. For me, this is a cheaper hero option. We've got some other cool options for heroes inside Helon that definitely work with the Huracan, but I think the Wind Charger, for me, the Wind Mage, he is the way to go. 5 up save, 5 wounds, 16 move, and fly is really nice. He's a 1 cast and 1 unbind wizard. He's a fan of redirection, allows him to add 1 to save rolls for attacks made with missile weapons that target him, and in addition, if the modified save roll for an attack made with a missile weapon that targets this unit is a 6 after all the attacking unit's attacks have been resolved, you can cause a mortal wound to an enemy unit within 9 inches of this unit and visible to it. His Wind Leap rule is really nice as well. If a friendly Wind Charger unit, and we'll talk about them in just a second, starts to move hollow within 6 inches of him, when it makes that move, that unit can make a move of 16 and can fly. He's got his own spell called Wind Blast Vortex as well. If successfully cast, it has a casting value of 5 and a range of 9. You get to, in your next shooting phase, you can pick an enemy unit within range and visible to the caster on a 2+, the enemy unit suffers D3 mortal wounds. Now, move like the wind is something that all Huracan units are going to have, and it's definitely something we're going to mention a lot. Now, when you make a piling move with this unit, if it does not have to finish its move no further from the nearest enemy unit than it was at the start of the move, meaning you can sort of move out of combat if you want to. You can move away, you can move sideways, you don't have to move at least as close towards the enemy model as you were. In addition, when you make a piling move for this unit, if it made a charge, it can move an extra 3 inch. So it essentially means you can, completely disengage your opponent, which is really cool. There's definitely a lot of things you can play around with how this sort of works, especially when we're thinking we want to be at that nice 3 inch range. Speaking of Huracan wind charges, now Huracan wind charges, they become battle line obviously in this particular sub-faction, and they have a 3 inch range melee weapon when they get to shoot their bows in combat. 1 attack, 3s and 3s, round 1 damage 1 in combat is really nice, but they also have, when they're at range, when they're shooting as a missile weapon, they've got a 12 inch range, 2 attacks, 3 3s, round 1 damage 1 as well. Obviously, if they're within 6 inch, they're going to get an extra shot there for 3 attacks at 3 3s, round 1 damage 1. They can have a standard barrel where they can reroll battle shock tests, and the champion of the unit will allow them to add 1 to their attacks with the Wind Charger bow, which is really cool. This does add to both its range and its melee attacks. And the mount, the tree runners are armed with claws, which they're the mount. They're going to add an extra 2 attacks at 3s and 4s, no rend, damage 1 in melee. Now go, where the wind blows is one of their many abilities. When this unit makes a move, it can pass across terrain features in the same manner as a unit that can fly. Wind Charger arrows don't allow ward rolls to be rolled when the wind charges shoot. And then they've got move like the wind, the same as the Wind Mage as well. Now, looking at those other heroes I was talking about, and the first of them is the Huracan Spirit of the Wind. This is the non-named variation. We've got a named variation we'll talk about in just a second, but 8 wounds on this model, and they've got a 5 up save. Now, the Bow of the Wind's Vengeance is 4 attacks, 2s to hit and 3s to wound, rend -2 and damage D3. They can also use it in combat for half the amount of attacks, and they've got the Swelling Shards in there for a little bit of extra damage. They have a built-in 5-up ward save thanks to the Into the Gale rule, and the Spirit of the Wind allows them at the end of the shooting phase they can make a normal move or retreat, though it cannot run, of 12 inch. In addition, this unit can retreat and still charge. They've got the Move Like the Wind ability, and they've got a Living Cyclone rule where you roll a dice for each enemy unit that's within 3 inches of this unit after it's made a charge move. On a 3+, that unit suffers a mortal wound and subtracts 1 from its hit roll. Same unit cannot be affected more than once from this ability though in the same phase. Now, we then have the named character variation, which is Severeth, Lord of the 7th Wind. He's got 10 wounds himself, and he's got his own bow, which goes up to Rend 3, still the same amount of damage, but it is still Rend -2 in melee. He's got a 5-up ward save as well. He's got the Spirit of the Wind rule and the Move Like the Wind rule, and he's got a Living Cyclone as well, which is the same as the normal one. Now he's also got the Scour rule, where at the end of the charge phase you can pick this unit to carry out the Smash to Rubble monstrous rampage, even though he's not a monster, and the Searing Desert Winds, where after this unit makes a normal move, you pick one enemy unit that has any models that this unit passed across and roll a dice, and on a 3+, that unit suffers D3 mortal wounds. Now, looking at some other units, because that is all the Huracan units, I think Dawn Riders are an interesting pick. They're going to be a much more melee-orientated unit we have available to us for the sub-faction. 14-inch move, though, means they're still going to be super fast, able to keep up, and you can definitely, say, put something like Speed of High-ish on them to give them a 28-inch move. They're going to get the ability to bring some mortal wounds to the table, and they're really good at clearing hordes, something, the army might struggle with. Lastly, we have the Endless Spells, and there definitely are some Endless Spells really worth taking a look at with your Lumineth Realm Lords. The Lumineth Realm Lords base ones give you Sanctum of Anatok, which is good for protecting a wizard. Hishin Twin Stones will boost your own magical potential, and the Rune of Petrification is not only damage dealing, but can also have some nice control play with it as well. And so here we have our sample army, obviously in Helon and Haiyish as our mortal realm. Now we've got the grand strategy, take what's theirs. This is a really cool grand strategy because it's effectively meaning we're going to try and control our opponent's territory. We're going to try and have lots of units in there, and with the amount of speed we can put on the table, we hopefully can be able to do this. Our triumph will be inspired for +1 a wound. Generally we hit pretty good, so getting +1 a wound if we can. We are only 10 points under, so it's not guaranteed, but +1 a wound can be really nice. A general is going to be Huracan Windmage, who's going to have the Grand Wind Rider rule, where we replace his Wind Leap ability, which is where he can make, the Huracan wind charges with a 16-inch move and fly. He increases that range to 24-inch. We'll then have a Huracan Spirit of the Wind, who is going to be carrying our artifact, which is going to be the Windstone. Once per battle, in your shooting phase, you can pick an enemy unit within 18 inches of the bearer that is visible to them and roll a dice. On a 1, they suffer a mortal wound. On a 2 to 4, they suffer 2. On a 5+, they suffer 4 mortal wounds. It's a nice little bit of extra mortal wound damage, I think. Now we then have Severeth in there as well, and for battle line, 2 units of Huracan wind charges, which are going to be in a Bounty Hunters battalion. I really like them in the Bounty Hunters. Being able to get some extra damage in there is really nice. The cavalry, we've got no Galatian veterans within the army. Now, 990 points, 10 points spare, no reinforced units, no allies, 45 wounds. It is getting a little bit light and 5 drops. There are definitely some other options you can play around with. I think maybe potentially looking at a battle regiment is certainly another good option. You definitely want to sort of see how your local meta goes. If you're finding your opponents are definitely being able to get across the table really quick, you're going to want to be playing with a battle regiment instead. But if you've got some ideas for a Helon army in the Lumineth Realm Lords, let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. Well, that's the end of the video. Thank you all for watching. We hope you enjoyed. If you did, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. And also drop us a comment down below letting us know what you enjoyed about the video. If you'd like to come chat more with me and other members of our community here at Sinful Gaming, you can do so on our Discord server, which is linked down in the video's description. If you'd like to help support the channel more, you can do so either by Patreon or YouTube members, or going to our Teespring store, all of which are linked down in the video's description as well. As a special thank you to our patrons and YouTube members, we'd like to give you all a shout out. So, a special Patreon shout out to Christian Weir, Soren, Kenny Lyle, Our Shot First, Andrew Bowen, Nathan Fee, The Rising Ape, Cure Dynamic, Anthony B, JJ Austrian, Average Wargamer, Domir, Mark Harvey, James Cader, Derek Bloobs, Benjamin Suarez, and Red Martin. And as thank you to our YouTube members as well, Green Roots Gaming, Kenton Young, Ronya, Lock Lorick, The Johnny 84, David Ellsworth, Wolfric Nick, Broken Chef, Ariana Edwards, Revenar, Pink, Nico Fire, Robin Mankiller, Monty's Tabletop Terrain, John Castle, and Davis Wire. Special thanks also to Lady Witchfox Art, who does all the amazing artwork you see on the channel, like you can see pictured here on this slide. Thank you once again for watching, everyone. Stay safe, stay well, and most of all, keep fighting that war against the grey. Ciao for now.